All right, let's dig in, shall we? We're going through this series called Beautiful Letdown, and I got the title from the name of a Switchfoot song from, I don't know, 20 years ago or so, and somewhere in that ballpark. Um, and I can remember at one point in time, Tanya and I having a conversation, and she said that she didn't like the song, and basically what it was is that I don't think she'd listened closely enough to the lyrics. Um, and so she kind of thought that it was talking about somehow God being a letdown, but a beautiful one. I'm like, wait, no, that's not right. And it's basically that everything the world has to offer is a letdown. And the day we realize that and we own that, it becomes a beautiful letdown because we realize that there's got to be something more creative, something more. And that's what really Ecclesiastes is all about. That's what we're going through. It's the book of Ecclesiastes, trying to get from there the truths that God has for us. And Solomon is traditionally the one who's understood to write that. He didn't name himself, but he makes it pretty clear at the beginning of the book that pretty much it's a preacher who's king in Israel. And most experts would agree that Ecclesiastes was written at the end of Solomon's life, whereas the book of Proverbs that we kind of typically think of with Solomon was written, middle of his life, middle age. He's got kids who are growing up but not grown. And so he wrote Proverbs, and it's so interesting because the tone of the two books is so different. I mean, you go to the book of Proverbs and you find all kinds of sayings in there that are kind of optimistic, for lack of a better term. It's kind of like, hey, if you work hard, good things come to you, or the fool has this happen to him, but the wise man has this good thing happen to them. And so it just keeps contrasting these things. It's like, this is the way of the fool, and bad things happen to those people. And then this is the way of the wise, and good things happen to those people. And that's the way it keeps going in. But the problem with the book of Proverbs is that we kind of take it and we kind of look at those Proverbs as promises. We want to treat it not as a book of Proverbs, but as a book of promises. The one I hear most about is a proverb that talks about parenthood. It says, raise a child up in the way he should go, way that he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. And that's a proverb. It's not a promise, however.
What does the word proverb mean?
That's a good question. But I can give you a vague definition, but I don't think I ever quite looked up a true, dictionary definition. Just meaning that a proverb is a short saying that is meant to convey a chunk of wisdom. Like early bird gets a nut. That's a proverb in the United States anyway. Things like that. And kind of like the book of Proverbs, they're meant to be optimistic. Hey, if you do this wise thing, good things come. And that's the tone throughout the book of Proverbs. It's not to say that there's never anything in there that is has a little bit of a pessimistic tone to it, but like 90% of it is like, if you're wise, good things come. That's pretty much Proverbs in a nutshell. Ecclesiastes changes the tone dramatically. Okay, matter of fact, I've heard more than one person, myself included, say that it's quite possibly the most depressing book in the Bible. And frankly, my opinion is there's no competition. Maybe Job, because you look at his life and how everything he went through, and that's depressing, no doubt about it. But it has the ribbon tied at the end that Job's life gets better, Things start happening the way they should. He has more kids. He's wealthier than ever, and he lived happily ever after. Is basically the idea at the end of Job. Ecclesiastes steps in and says, you know what? Life sucks. And then you die. And it's kind of like, it harps on that over and over again. And you start reading through it and you're going there, and it's like, okay, man, in the book of Proverbs, like, hey, if I work hard and I'm diligent, I rise up early and I go to bed late and I take the opportunities that are given me, then good things are going to come my way. I'm going to flourish. I'll have wealth and whatever. God will bless me. All these good things. And then Ecclesiastes comes in and says, yeah, you're going to work. You're going to build up some stuff. And then you're going to die and your kid's going to squander it. And it's not like, Solomon, who did you wrong? It's just, he comes in, it's like, at the end of his life, he's not pulling punches. He's trying to make us really understand that when it comes to everything this life has to offer, it really is a letdown. And so if we chase after it our whole lives, we're going to get nothing but letdown after letdown after letdown. And the best people in our lives will let us down sooner or later. Money goes away. It's like the old saying, money talks, it says goodbye. That's pretty much what it does. I mean, even people who build it up and they get more than they could ever spend, it's like at the end of their lives, they leave it to somebody. And most of the time, within 2 generations, it's gone. And this is the pain that Solomon just leans into, that everything that this world has to offer is, in the end, worthless. But again, it's meant to be a beautiful letdown. And look, what Solomon doesn't harp on, but he puts in here little nuggets here and there. He uses this phrase, under the sun. And it's meant to remind us that everything here in the physical plane of existence that we know and experience and understand, that this is all temporary. That this is a phase, I guess you can call it. And that's what he's going through here. And if Proverbs is optimistic in saying that, hey, if you do these things, good things come. Ecclesiastes is negative, saying if you do these things, good might come, but even so, in the end, it's worthless and it goes away. Because, I mean, we all, it even goes to the point of saying that kind of like the animals, we're both born and we're made from dust, and to dust we return. And you can't take it with you. That's really kind of, we have that saying here in America too. We've kind of taken that, but that comes from the book of Ecclesiastes. The idea you cannot take it with you, because Solomon has a lot to say about money in this thing. And that's his biggest thing. So, like, even if you do build up money, you can't take it with you. You can't guarantee what the people who inherit it will do with it. Matter of fact, that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. And when you're reading the Bible, especially, this is really, this is true in all of life. When you're reading the Bible or talking to people or whatever else, you've got to look at and ask the question, okay, what is the text saying? What is this person saying? But one thing you can also do that's a useful trick is, what is this person not saying? What is the Bible not saying? And that, you ask that question, you start answering it. And that's really where the gold of Ecclesiastes come in, is that he's not harping on this idea of, hey, if you give your life to God, you've got eternal reward. He slips it in there, here and there, but it's kind of, the whole thing is pregnant with it. Because again, if he's building up this sense of futility that every day what we do eventually just turns to dust, then there's got to be something more. He even goes in chapter 3, he talks about how God has built eternity into the hearts of people. And that we're not going to be satisfied with the temporary things of this world. And it doesn't matter how good you build your house. I don't care if you use the finest concrete, the best steel, and the finest craftsmen. Sooner or later, that building rots away. Of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, none of them they're either all gone or seriously deteriorated. It's just not what it used to be. And that's life. But that's life without God. And that's what Solomon's laying out. It's this whole life without God. This is what it is. If you want to live life without God, that's fine. Go ahead. Enjoy what you can, because I promise this is all you're going to get. There's that futility that sinks in. And if you're just going to live for the world, then this is what the world has to give you, and it's going to go away. And just accept that fact. But in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, he digs in a little bit on this concept of money and honestly the injustice that's kind of inherent with it. So, and we're going to dig in on Ecclesiastes chapter 5. I start in verse 8. Okay? So Ecclesiastes 5:8 says, "Don't be surprised if you see a poor person being oppressed by the powerful, and if justice is miscarried throughout the land. For every official is under orders from higher up, and because of justice, let me try that one again. For every official is under orders from higher up, and matters of justice lost in red tape and bureaucracy. Even the king milks the land for his own profit. Those who love money will never have enough. How meaningless to think that wealth brings true happiness. The more you have, the more people come to help you spend it. So, what good is wealth? Except perhaps to watch it slip through your fingers. People who work hard sleep well, whether they eat little or much, but the rich seldom get a good night's sleep. There's another serious problem that I've seen on this. Hoarding riches harms the safe. Money is put into risky investments that turn sour, and everything's lost. In the end, there's nothing left to pass on to one's children. We all come to the end of our lives as naked and empty as on the day we were born. We can't take our riches with us. And this, too, is a very serious problem. People leave this world no better off than when they came. All their hard work is for nothing, like working for the wind. Throughout their lives, they live under a cloud, frustrated, discouraged, and angry. Even so, I have noticed one thing that is good. It's good for people to eat, drink, and enjoy the work under the sun during the short life God has given them, and to accept their lot in life. And it is a good thing to receive wealth from God and good health to enjoy it. To enjoy your work and accept your lot in life, this is indeed a gift from God. God keeps such people so busy enjoying life that they take no time to do their good things. So he hits a lot of things in here. And we're going to start back up and start drilling in verse 8. In verses 8 and 9, not that I'm an expert by any stretch, don't get me wrong, but everything I've seen says that these two verses are some of the hardest in the whole Old Testament to translate. And it's not even just a matter of translation, it's a matter of they're difficult to understand. There's disagreement. So if you get like 3 different versions of the Bible, compare those 2 verses, you're going to get some wildly different translations. Okay? So, and like I said, I'm no expert. I'm taking people who know better than me, I'm taking their word for it. Matter of fact, if you look at it in this version of the Bible, the NLT, I don't know about other versions, but if you look at the end of verse 9, I've got a little asterisk right there. And it goes down, and you look at what that little footnote's supposed to be, and it says, chapter 5, verse 9, the meaning of the Hebrew in verses 8 and 9 is uncertain. How's that for an honest admission? It's like, hey, we're Bible translators. We spent years studying the Hebrew. We've learned the intricacies of this. We've learned what each letter means. We've learned all this. And this one kind of has all this stuff. It's why if you compare King James or the NASB or the NLT, you're going to get some differences. And it kind of comes down to a matter of opinion. And some people are taking it the way that the NLT does, that this is a matter of trying to express all the futility of it. And so I'm going to read what it says here. It says, don't be surprised if you see a poor person being oppressed by the powerful, and if justice is being miscarried throughout the land. For every official is under orders from higher up. And matters of justice get lost in red tape and bureaucracy. Even the king milks the land for his own profit. It's really the second half of verse 8 and then verse 9 that really gets where the confusion comes in. It's extremely hard to understand, much less interpret. So basically what I've read that makes the most sense to me, because everything I'm trying to do, I'm trying to put in context, and that's always a rule of it. I heard one guy that runs a Christian organization that's all about apologetics, really. Um, they have a value at their organizations, basically. They never read just one verse. Always go in the context and understand that verse in the context. You got to go at least a few verses ahead and read a few verses afterwards, because usually the stuff ahead of it sets up our understanding of that verse, and then the stuff after it sometimes brings clarification. Just like you and I, sometimes we say something and we're like, I think I need to bring a little more clarity to what I just said. So we kind of explain things a little further, maybe find an illustration, something to bring meaning to it. And that's the way it needs to be. And so in the terms of context, when you're looking at what is being said here in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, I really feel like that when you get into that second half of verse 8 and in verse 9, it would almost, so like the first half, I want to pretty much keep how it is. It says, don't be surprised if you see a poor person being oppressed by the powerful, and if justice is being carried throughout from you. For every official is under orders from higher up. And that's basically the part that I would keep pretty much where it is. This is not rocket science. We see this all the time. People who have money can get away with murder, sometimes almost literally. I mean, classic case is O.J. Simpson. Whether you think he was innocent or not, unquestionably, Johnny Cochran was an awesome lawyer. And that man and his team got O.J. Simpson excused from being found guilty of murder in first degree. And it goes on and on. There's numerous examples. Basically, if money buys a good lawyer can get you out of all kinds of stuff. We see it. We understand it. We don't like it. Most of them don't like it. The rich like it. I mean, I admit that I'm kind of jaded when it comes to politics. But, like, I know I see lots of times when political opponents will bring up something that somebody did that was, let's just say, legally sketchy. And I'm like, yeah, even if that's true, they're not going to be tried for it. I see it time and time again. If you're politically connected, you're probably not going to even be brought up on charges, much less actually found guilty of it. And, in my mind, the clearest example of something like that we saw in the last administration at the very end of President Biden's term. He went through what every president does, a whole slew of pardons, including which was his son, not only for what he'd been accused of, but he gave him a blanket pardon for a time period. So basically anything illegal he might have done in this time period, he's pardoned from. That's not justice. And it happens on both sides of the scale. I'm not just getting onto the political left. This happens all the time. Both sides. Doesn't matter whether it's a Republican president or a Democrat president. This is the way it is. We see that injustice. We see that indeed it is. If you see a poor person being oppressed by the powerful, and if justice is carried throughout the land, don't be surprised. This happens. This is life as we know it. And this is where he starts changing the tone a little bit and gives us, I think, a nugget of hope. It says, for every official is under orders from higher up. And it's not so much, I mean, sometimes it is a matter of the orders come from higher up to excuse a crime or to excuse poor behavior because the person is wealthy, whatever. Sometimes that is the case, absolutely. But part of what he's trying to say is that there's someone over this person. And you know what? There's someone over that person. And there's someone who, eventually, there's going to be somebody in that chain of command who cares about justice. And ultimately, it might come all the way up to God himself. And that's what he's trying to say, I believe, right here. Is that every official is under orders from higher up. It matters if justice gets lost in red tape and bureaucracy. That's the weird phrase right there. says, what I read gave this basically as kind of an idea of what it's trying to say. It said, even the king, especially in verse 9, and when it says, even the king milks the land for his own profit, he gave an author I read gave a different interpretation on that. He said basically that even the king needs the blessings, God's blessings for the field to yield fruit. The king, no matter how powerful the king is, has zero power to make crops grow. That's God's territory. So literally, if God wants to, he could starve the king because he could prevent any crops from growing. If that's what he wanted to, he could do that. This is part of what Solomon's trying to hit us, is that there's injustice all around us, no question about it. But you know what? There's a God who loves justice. And it may not happen in our time. It may not happen the way we want. Matter of fact, we may never even know about justice happening, but it will happen. Every single time. And that's what we can take hope with, is that it's not that people are trustworthy, not that a judge who's sworn an oath of office or a president who's sworn an oath of office is going to bring justice. No, it's going to be, eventually, it's going to be God. They're not going to get away with it. If they're living life as the book of Proverbs would probably call them, like according to a life of wickedness, then God's justice will reign. It will be final. It will be supreme. Let's move on. Verse 10 says, those who love money will never have enough. How meaningless to think that wealth brings true happiness. The more you have, the more people come to help you spend it. So what good is wealth except perhaps to watch it slip through your fingers? People who work hard sleep well, whether they eat little or much, but the rich seldom get a good night's sleep. And what he's trying to convey for us in these next few verses basically is that money, when it comes to money, there's no such thing as enough. I think it was John D. Rockefeller. I believe it was him who was asked by a reporter one time, hey, you're the richest man in the world, you're worth billions, how much money is enough? He says, $1 more. And for a lot of people, that's basically true. Is that, do I have enough? No. It doesn't matter if they're with billions, they want more. And that's true from billionaires, and it's down to the people who are living well below poverty. They have enough? No. None of us ever really feel like we have enough. Even when we've got everything we could ever want, even when we can't spend it all, it's not enough because it becomes a matter of scorekeeping. It's like, I want to be on that top 10 list. I want to be at the top of the list of wealthiest people in the world. It's just, there's never enough. Even the guy who's in first place on the wealthiest list of people in the world, he's like, I got to get further ahead. He just brings these problems. And that's what he's trying to say, is that there's no such thing as enough. But I do like this thing, how it says basically that, if you got money, you got friends who are willing to come help you spend it. I've heard this time and time again that the single best way to find out how big your family tree is in law, suddenly everyone comes out and says, hey, we're third cousins, twice removed. Can you help send my kid to college? And that's the way it is. If we find out that we've got some link to money, someone's going to come asking to, fund our business venture or medical bills or whatever. It may be really good causes. It may be the most frivolous things ever, but it's people come out of the woodwork and got money. That's just the way it is. And so that's part of the reason why, enough is never enough, because it's not just you spending your money. There's other people who are helping as well. But I really like what he says in verse 12. People who work hard sleep well, whether they eat little or much, but the rich seldom get a good night's sleep. And he's trying to say that basically, hey, if you get a good night's sleep, if you are working an honest, day's work. Whether you're digging ditches or you're programming code into a computer or sitting at a desk all day, there's from an honest day's work, you can get an honest day's or night's sleep. You don't have to worry about your conscience keeping you up at night. And he contrasts that with people who don't get an honest day's work. He says, but the rich seldom get a good night's sleep because there's problems on their mind. It comes back down to that there's not enough, so they're scheming up ways to make more, or they're feeling guilty over having given the shack to somebody else so that they can make more. There's always something going on that's causing someone who's got all that money to lose sleep. And I know you guys are probably thinking, I wish I had those problems. And in some degree, some ways, probably right, but it does bring problems. And that's what it goes into. It's verse 13. It says, there's another serious problem I've seen under the sun. Hoarding riches harms the saver. Money's put into risky investments that turn sour and everything's lost. In the end, there is nothing left to pass on to one's children. We all come to the end of our lives as naked and empty-handed as on the day we were born. We can't take our riches with us. And so he's trying to tell us here that when we become that person who's saving money, just for the sake of saving money. I'm not talking about saving money to have an emergency fund. It's like, hey, if the transmission goes out on a car, or if we got an ER visit because Junior broke his arm, whatever. That's not saving money for the sake of saving money. That's what it's talking about. Matter of fact, there's one place in the entire Bible where God himself calls a man a fool. I wanted to go there real quick. It's not up on our screen, but it's Luke chapter 12. Okay? Luke chapter 12, verses 19 and 20. All right? Luke 12, verses 19 and 20. And he's in the middle of this proverb. I'm just going back up and read a little bit more. Verse 16 says, then he told them a story. A rich man had a fertile farm which produced fine crops. He said to himself, what should I do? I don't have room for all my crops. Then he said, I know, I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll have room enough to store all my wheat and other goods. And I'll sit back and say to myself, my friend, you have enough stored away for years to come. Now take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, you will die this very night. Then who will get everything you worked for? Yes, the person is a fool who to store up earthly wealth and not have a rich relationship with God. He's telling us, right? That was Jesus basically telling us what's on God's mind. If you're just saving up just so you can save up and have, God gives us stuff, whether it's abilities, money, time, whatever. It doesn't matter. He gives us that stuff so we can use it. Not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of those around us. That's what God's blessings are. It's something that's not just for us, it's for others. We say that time and time again. But we see this thing he says, hoarding riches harms the saver. And most of us are probably thinking on some level, yeah, I don't see it. I just don't. I mean, Elon Musk has more money than he knows what to do with. Proof positive, in fact, that, he's trying to basically build a machine on Mars. And, he's spending his money to do stuff like that. The inherent problem is that money produces temptations. And those temptations can cause us problems. And the simple reality is that most of us aren't equipped to handle those temptations. We haven't been prepared, and so we fail when those tests come. Matter of fact, it's interesting to me that in reading about this, a guy brought up the old Motown group called The Temptations. Okay, they were classic they were like the face of Motown. Okay, and once, I mean, at one point in time, they were discovered seen on the street corner just for fun. That, that's what they were doing. And later on, after they got signed, after they did records and they were touring and they had all the money coming in that comes from being a big act, what happened? Four of those guys, three of them had tragic endings. Okay, one of them, he got lost in drugs, and when he his end was that basically he got shot in the head and shoved out of a drug pusher's. That's how he died. Another guy had less tragic ending, but basically he had an affair and his marriage went to pot. Another guy had basically, it was a combination of the other two. He got lost in adultery and alcohol. Only one of those guys had anything that resembled a happy ending. So it's ironic, isn't it, that the began name was the Temptations? Because once the temptation of money came, 3 out of 4 of them took the wrong road. And I think that's probably an optimistic percentage, that if God gave everyone in this room as much money as we could find something to do with, and then some, probably at least 75% of us would go down a bad road, even if it was just a short detour. And that's what he's trying to tell us here. That wealth brings problems. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Verse 16. And this too is a very serious problem. People leave this world no better off than when they came. All their hard work's for nothing, like working for the wind. Throughout their lives, they live under a cloud, frustrated, discouraged, and angry. And he brings out this futility that comes with it. It's like, hey, you want to build up money? You're going to lose it. You know, you're going to die at some point in time, and there is no U-Hauls behind hearses, as we kind of come to say. It just doesn't happen. I mean, I heard a joke about a man who died, and he basically arranges for 4 of his friends that he gave all of his money to, and he says, I want you to, if they say you can't take it with you, I'm going to prove them wrong. I want you to put this money in my coffin there before they seal me up, and I'll take it with me. And these are good friends, good loyal friends, and so he trusted them with his money, gave them each a quarter of it, and sure enough, come the day of the funeral, so walking by, first friend puts his money in, share the money in. Second friend does the same, puts his share in. Third friend does the same, puts his share of money in. Fourth friend writes a check, puts it in there, closes it.
There's only so much you can put in that hole.
I guess might have been an extra large coffin. I don't know, but regardless, you get the idea. That that guy wanted to take it with him, but he said, he could cash that check. That's the idea. Is that we come into the world naked and empty-handed, and that's how we're in this world, basically. So that's it. That's what he's trying to tell us. Verse 18 says, even so, I've noticed one thing that is good. It's good for people to eat, drink, and enjoy their work under the sun during the short life God has given them, and to accept their lot in life. And it is a good thing to receive wealth from God and good health to enjoy it. To enjoy your work and accept your lot in life. This is indeed a gift from God. God keeps such people so busy enjoying life that they take no time to grieve. And this is part of one of the things that Ecclesiastes is trying to tell us, is that when it comes to what's under the sun, whether it's money or whether it's relationships or whatever, it's like he's telling us to take the time to enjoy what God has given you. Okay? So whether you don't believe in God, enjoy it. This is all you got, so live it up, But for those of us who do have God, who have our eyes focused on the things that are eternal, that really matter, even still, he's saying, some of that money, spend it, enjoy it. It's okay. It's not a sin to enjoy yourself. And in the church, we've kind of come to the understanding that it's like money is the root of all evil. And that's not what it says. It's money is the love of money is the root of all sorts of evil. And that's very true. But money itself is not the root of evil. It goes, that root goes much deeper than money. And so it's not all there is to it. But we're only going to leave what we can. And that's what we need to accept. And that's part of what he's trying to tell us, is that if we enjoy what God gives us and we accept our place in life and we are content, it's kind of ironic that we're hitting this passage just before Thanksgiving, a holiday that was kind of originated here in the United States, as far as I know anyway, and there's no holiday we'd rather blaze over. We'd almost rather skip over Thanksgiving and get right into Christmas. Certainly that's what all the commercials tell us. I mean, except for Butterball. They like to tell us, hey, go out and buy a turkey. The rest of us, it's like, hey, we're getting the idea of new cars and new electronics and whatever else, and that's what you need to go for. But he's trying to say, hey, this attitude of thanksgiving is so vital. That's why he's putting it this way. I love how he says it there. No, that's the word. It's verse 19. To enjoy your work and accept your lot in life. This is a gift God. So whether your work makes you wealthy or whether it has you living paycheck to paycheck, enjoy what life has to offer. I mean, it's kind of, I keep saying, the same things in life are going to happen to us. Our attitude is going to say whether we enjoy them or whether we're going to be miserable. Same sort of things are going to happen either way. What's going to be your attitude? Are you going to try to enjoy things as well as you can? You can. I keep getting reminded of the ugly work that none of us enjoys. And I know that's different for each one of us. But like every single one of us, sooner or later, has tasks to do we absolutely hate doing. And we can either do it with a bad attitude, or we can do it with as good an attitude as we can do. And it can be better. And who knows, we might actually enjoy something. Maybe it's the people we get to do it with, and we get to banter and have fun doing that. And we get to enjoy the company we have while we're doing some miserable task. I don't know. The point is that if you come into it with a bad attitude and you're ungrateful, I guarantee you're going to be miserable while you're doing it.
The ESV is so much better than that, but it says we have joy at the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah, Ecclesiastes is a little more frustrating than this, in my mind, for this translation, but still, I'm staying with it. There's good reasons. But at any rate,
I just wanted to bring that out.
Yeah.
In the ESV, it says joy.
yeah. And that's a good way of looking at it, because happiness comes and goes. Joy is an attitude we have. And I think gratitude, thankfulness, however you want to put it, is a big part of that. Being grateful for what God's given us and allowing ourselves to enjoy whatever it is we have. It's a big deal. So if God gives you money, by all means use it wisely. But part of using it wisely means enjoying it. Okay? It's not a sin. All right. Now, I kind of want to wrap things up with this. When God gives us money or things or abilities or whatever it is, we need to use a portion of that to accomplish eternal purposes. Like I said, this is part of what Ecclesiastes is trying to tell us, that if all you've got is money and people and things, and it all goes away. We die in the end. And just like you said, we're going to die with none. We can't take that. We can't take anyone with us when we go. So if this is all you're living for, live it up and enjoy it. But for those of us who have eternity in mind, who know that there's an eternal God who calls us more, who lets us know that this world that's filled with wealthy people who sometimes get away with murder, that this was never God's intention for us. This was always a broken world, and that someday Christ is going to return and he's going to unbreak this world. He's going to heal it, he's going to make it whole, and that day justice will be a way of life. There will be no such thing anymore as injustice. That's eternity. These 80, 90, 100 years that we get to live, it's a short time. Paul even talks about life and its hardships. He calls it this light in momentary affliction. And he's saying that compared to eternity, all the crap we go through, it's temporary. It doesn't last that long. I mean, what's 100 years compared to 100 trillion? It's going to be a distant memory. So Jesus understands what we go through. Because if there's somebody who understands injustice, then it's the perfect God who stepped down into the broken world to basically go through the sham trial that he did and suffered and was crucified, even though he didn't deserve it at all. That was the greatest injustice in all of time. And he still went into it knowing that was what was going to happen. And in fact, not just knowing that was what was going to happen, that was his plan. That's what he knew needed to happen. And so he set things in motion that would take him to the cross so that we would have a hope for eternity. So that this life of injustice and poverty and wealthy people and their corruption and whatever else this life has to offer, that this would not be all there is. There's hope. There's always hope. And it's an eternal hope. And the hope that God gives is not some wishy-washy, I hope, maybe, could be, possibly. It's a sure promise. And as sure as God is true and faithful and just, those promises are going to come true. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know it is going to happen. So we stand every day with the choice to live for the temporary that fades away or to live for the eternal. And we can use those temporary things to accomplish eternal goals. We can use that job to reach people, to talk to people about God and to share with them what God's brought us through and how great life with him is, what joy is like, what peace is like, even in the midst of hardship. We can use the money he gives to send over to Africa and help feed kids who are starving to death. All these things that we can use, these are temporary things, and we can use them for eternal purposes. I had a friend years ago who was driving around for her job in the DFW area as an insurance adjuster, and I just remember that this is just the most temporary of things. She packed her lunch because it's hard to find healthy food when you're eating out. And she's going around and she sees this homeless person who's basically outside and saying, "Hey, I'm hungry, can you help?" So she sacrifices her lunch for that guy and gives it to him. He was not impressed. He threw it away. But that's a temporary thing. She went without lunch and tried to use that thing because, let's face it, food goes bad usually in less than a week. And that's as temporary about as it gets. And she tried to use that for an eternal purpose. That's what we have every day. We can do that as well. We can use what God has given us that's temporary and disappears, and we can use these things for eternal purposes. This is our way to share the hope that God gives us. We have that opportunity. Let's use it. So let's pray. Lord God, I come to you, and my heart bleeds for all the injustice we see in this. People dying, people being oppressed. It's everywhere. It's in this nation, it's in nations across the world. There's not a system of government that has things down perfect. There's not a people group that has love down perfect. We live in a world full of anger, hatred, bitterness, resentment, injustice. It's a world that's broken, and we're the ones that are broken. So thank you for stepping into our brokenness, to heal us, to offer us hope. Help us hold on to that hope, to not forget about it. When the futility of life presses in hard, help us to hold that much tighter to the hope. Because every medical problem someday will be healed. Every financial woe will be forgotten. Every need will be met. It's all because of you. Help us put our hope in you. Not in things, not in money, not in other people, but in you. Let's fix our eyes on you. It's in Jesus' name I pray.